Hi, I'm Firas, and welcome back to BrandBucket Academy. In this episode, we're talking about something foundational to every lasting brand: real customer connection. Margot Bushnaq, founder and CEO of BrandBucket, shares why emotional connection drives memory, trust, and loyalty, and how brands can go beyond marketing to create meaningful relationships with their audience. We'll explore what it means to understand your customers, how to use feedback wisely, and how storytelling and shared values help your message stick. Let's get into it. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
We're going to be talking about customers and, most importantly, connecting with your customers. Why is emotional connection such a powerful part of branding?
Emotional connection is very strongly tied to memory. And so if recall of your brand is important at all, if they buy something from you once and you want them to come back, or if you want them to tell their friends about you, they need to remember you and they need to remember your brand. And the way that that memory gets stored is through emotions.
So, what happens when customers feel a real connection to a brand?
They can actually develop a relationship with the brand rather than just a cold transactional type of relationship. They can have a deeper, more forgiving relationship with the brand. And they can kind of come along for the ride with you as a brand. If you experiment with a new product, usually they're the first to try it out. If you, as I mentioned before, if you mess up somehow, if you have a big fail, you're the people who actually have a deeper connection with you are the people who are going to stick around and lend you some forgiveness to come back and not immediately withdraw their business from you.
How does connection go beyond just marketing?
It's connection is all the touch points of a product and service and company. It's the customer service. It's the any kind of content that you put out there that's not markety content, but it's about your company or about the people behind your company or about the good that you're doing in the world. It's everything that can make the customer know more about you and feel that they know you and they feel kind of indebted to you, even though they're the ones giving you their money. They at the same time they feel like they're a piece of you and they need to stick around for your journey.
That's very cool. Understanding your audience is the next topic. What's the first step to better understand your customers?
Listen. Sometimes customers don't usually give feedback. It's very hard to get information from customers. So when they do talk, if one person talks, that means that 200 people are not talking. So there's a reason that that one person stood up and said what they said, positive or negative. And because feedback is so rare, it is something that you need to treasure and dissect. And if you can, just as quickly as you can, go get that customer on the line, on the phone, and get a little more out of them, because at that moment they're willing to share. You need to get a little more information from them.
How do you define your target audience without making assumptions?
I think at the very beginning of a startup's journey, when you're testing the waters, your first customers, the first people who lay down $1 for you, are the people who have kind of understood what you're trying to do. And at that moment, if you need to understand who those people are. And if you can, like I said, take the time at the beginning to reach out to your first few customers and figure out who they are, why in particular they chose your company to solve the pain point that you're solving. And then take all of that feedback and try to grow that into being able to reach more of the same type of person.
Great. Next, we're going to be talking about understanding your audience. What tools or methods help founders learn more about who they're serving?
The most effective tools usually are it's marketing dollars spent on rewards for customers, giving a gift card in exchange for a survey. Like I said, it's very difficult to get feedback from customers, and usually there needs to be some bait. So there's all sorts of reward platforms out there that, they give points for recurring customers, or they give money if they refer. And referrals are huge because if they like you enough to tell their friends about you, then not only do you have one customer, but those people know their friends in a way that you don't. And you can find out more about what's resonating by looking not only at that one person, but then at the 5 people they recommended you to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess how they market you to their friends is probably different than how you market yourself. So it's in a way you're propagating your value of what you're trying to do to that network. That makes perfect sense. All right. Next, we're going to be talking about delivering value with meaning. How can a business use storytelling to create deeper engagement?
Storytelling is the heart of every brand. If the storytelling sets the stage for the customer to understand why you do what you do, otherwise it's just, there's no understanding and there's no connection. So if you can set the stage and lay the background through a story, not only have you triggered an emotional connection, but you've planted themselves deeper into their brains. Because again, any kind of emotional connection, anything that makes more neurons fire at the time that they're absorbing the information, causes them to retain that information longer.
What are examples of brands that connect through shared values or purpose?
I really like Shopify. Their purpose is to enable every person to be a small business. And they create a ton of content around elevating the stories of people who've used Shopify to become a business. They always talk about starting small and launching, and they have the tools that allow you to grow with them. They do a great job.
How do you ensure your message resonates instead of just adding noise?
The easiest way to test that is on social media. If you get any kind of reaction from your message, it means it's resonating. Again, feedback, even the feedback of a like, is so hard to get. For every one person that likes, there's 1,000 people that read what you said, didn't necessarily dislike it, but then didn't give you their feedback.
They're indifferent, maybe.
They're indifferent.
Yeah.
And so it's very, if you post something that gets a little more traction than the last thing, that's huge. Because like every little extra piece of feedback you get means that your story is resonating.
Yeah. What role does consistency play in how customers perceive and trust a brand?
Consistency, you have to be a consistent personality. You don't want to be a split personality with a brand. The customer needs to connect just as if they're connecting to a person. And if they feel that multiple people are coming at them, they don't know which person to look at when they're communicating. So consistency allows that connection to be stronger, and it helps people fall in love with you more.
The next section here, we're going to be talking about long-term loyalty.
Okay.
What's the difference between a transaction and a relationship in branding?
Everything starts out as a transaction. Either the customer signs up for your newsletter, or they buy something from you, or they follow you on social media. Everything is like tiptoeing at the very beginning of a relationship. They're dating. The minute that they remember you or they come back to you, that's the beginning of a relationship, and brands can do a lot to foster that. They don't have to wait for the customer to come to them. They can reach out. They can use personalization to reach out, to actually make the customer feel like they're being listened to a bit more. The customer relationship is very much like human relationships, and it needs to go both ways, and it needs to be subtle and not off-putting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess what you mentioned, it's dating. So the transaction is the first date, and the relationship is date.
Transaction's more of just like handing over your phone number. It's the very, very beginning.
So it's not even the first date. Yeah.
Yeah.
How you do that and how you make that first impression.
Yeah.
Is ultimately what. Okay. What's your advice for a founder trying to build long-term loyalty?
I think putting your story out there, having people kind of connect with the people behind your company is important. I think doing something that allows people to recommend you to their friends and family is also important, because at that point they've become an ambassador for your brand and they're invested in you. If they recommend something that then ends up performing poorly, it reflects negatively on them. So you need to just figure out that pathway of referral and word of mouth.
What should founders keep in mind when building a brand that truly connects with people?
I think they need to keep the relationship in mind, and you treat people how you want to be treated. So you need to be friendly, you need to be communicative, you need to own up to your mistakes, you need to be honest. All of those pieces come into making your brand more human, and your customers will appreciate it.
Great. Perfect ending for a very important segment. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
At the heart of every great brand is a relationship. And like any relationship, it's built on honesty, empathy, and connection. From listening to your early customers to staying consistent in how you show up, building a brand people truly connect with starts with how you build your relationship with your target audience. If you're ready to grow a brand people remember and recommend, visit BrandBucket.com to find a name that sparks connection from the very first click. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.